if you need, and Julie, feel free to jump in.
I'm going to let you have it.
If you want to do
for
something,
your next review, though.
Oh, damn.
That's if we do reviews. All right, it's Microsoft 365 automation options for today, April 15th, 2026. We have the gang all here today, which is lovely. Automation options. Wow, look at this table of contents. Automation maturity. We have all the options for you. We're going to try to go through them at least at a high level. We're going to have quick steps, list and library rules, workflow, UX in SharePoint and Teams, that new thing. So we'll talk about that. The Power Automate and Azure Functions route, which is, for you dev and power user wannabes. And then the scripting, of course, we had to give Todd a whole slide. I mean, Jesus, whatever. Notable mentions on things, and I don't think we'll have time, but there is such a thing, obviously, for things like Outlook reminders or using sticky notes or, and FYI, the alerts deprecation. So hopefully we'll get there too. All right, so let's get started since we have a huge agenda and start off with Mark Anderson, who's going to walk us through the maturity model for automation.
So, taking the standard maturity model from Microsoft 365 view of things, sort of at level 100, everybody just does everything manually. Everybody's brute forcing their lives. They're not using any tools. They're just making stuff happen. In some organizations, frankly, that's not horrible. It's when you have repeated things that, if you are, for example, collaborate. Yes. Proud, Julie.
We're maturity level 100 here at Sympraxis.
Yes. Well, cobbler's kids and all that. No, we have some automation that serves us quite well. But we focused on the things that are repeatable, things that happen on a regular basis and where we don't want to do that thing each time. But in many organizations, none of that exists. When you get to level 200, you might have some individuals coming up with automations. They may have set up some rules for themselves. They may start using quick steps in lists, for example. But it's more one person trying to solve their automation needs as opposed to sharing across groups of people, which when we get to level 300, you might start to find sort of departmental or work group level automations. Let's handle contracts better. So we'll have a flow that lets us know when a contract moves from one stage to another, or we'll have rules that will notify people, things like that. So you're starting to collaborate and have common processes that work together in an automated way across groups of people. IT often doesn't come in at all before that. And that's unfortunate because giving some advisory services to people as they start to climb that ladder is actually a really helpful thing. Automation is a thing that usually IT knows about, but isn't always there to collaborate with. So at level 400, you start to see IT reaching out into the organization or supporting people well when they have automation needs, giving them a set of options, for example, or helping them solve their own problems, depending on how big your organization is, stuff like that. And then in level 500, where everything, as the sun breaks through the clouds and you hear angels singing, and many people never get to this, but I love to use the old AAS at the end of things. So if you think about it, IT can really start offering automation as a service. People say, we do this thing, it's repeated every 5 minutes, every 2 days, every 3 months, and we want it to work consistently. So then IT starts to build out, an automation platform, if you will, that various people can take advantage of. This could be just better use of, for example, the Power Platform. A lot of people don't use any environments in the Power Platform. They just cram everything into one environment and it becomes a bit of a mess. That's probably more in level 300, edging into 400. So, you might have internal consultants who may or may not be in IT. They may be like more business analyst type people who are offering those services. And then developers, because sometimes the best answer is to develop custom code that enables complex automations that are, your special sauce as an organization, something that really matters a lot, that is core to making the organization function. Down at the bottom there, I've got the AI alternative. We don't have agents on our list of automation, and I don't really feel like we ought to, but I wanted to just mention this because somebody's going to ask. In the agentic world, we can, which is still not a word, we can ask agents to do things for us. And as they get smarter and smarter, they will actually start doing tasks for us. Julie and I were talking about this the other day, and she pointed out to the person we were talking to that agents aren't deterministic. So at least unless you work hard to make them deterministic. And for most automations, you want them to work the same way every single time, and you want them to be predictable, and you want them to be reliable. Agents are not really that. So that's why I put it down there in the best of breed end of things. Your organization may well find some places where agents can be very helpful, but I think in the automation spectrum, they're sort of off in a corner. And I will stop now.
Yeah, to just address the joking that we're doing in the chat, absolutely, we should practice what we preach. But I think we do. I think we do embrace this. I mean, we are 7 people, so 99% of what we do can be at maturity level 100 because there's not a lot of things that we do over and over again. But at the same time, we have some 500 level maturity things with, complete automation solutions that we've deployed for Sympraxis to make the things that we do over and over again completely automated and custom developed and working pretty well for us. So I think we do have a good balance of that. And I think that is kind of the point where this maturity model isn't a right or wrong. You're doing it wrong if you're at 100 and you're doing it right if you're at 500. It is what is appropriate for your organization, what your culture is, what your needs are.
For the specific task. I mean, I can't tell you how many times people ask me to write them or build them a workflow for something that they did once a year. That's just not good trade-off. You want to definitely be focusing on your higher volume type stuff.
Yeah. And to address the AI thing as well a little bit further, agents, when they have tools that can be deterministic, but in general, the outcome of asking a large language model for an answer is non-deterministic. So that was more what we were talking about. So just to clarify, yeah, it's probabilistic. Exactly. Patrick, did you have something else to say? I think I interrupted you.
No, I was just going to say, I mean, one of the things that was just kind of occurred to me as Mark was talking about IT and adopting some sort of automation maturity and encouraging things like that, and some of the comments in the chat, it kind of made me realize that this is all relying on trust. And traditionally, a lot of our clients and a lot of our folks, IT doesn't trust the people using the platform to do things. And I find it interesting, particularly with this conversation today, that Microsoft is pushing these whether IT wants them to or not. You can't turn these things off. These are things that are available for users. So trying to figure out how to work with IT to train their users how to do these and to trust them to do that properly is kind of the changing world we live in.
Mm-hmm. No, that's a really great point. All right, let's move on since we have so many slides and so little time. Mr. Cashman.
All right, we're going to move through this one pretty quick because we covered it last week, not to rely on that. But in the context of automation, there, of course, is a new feature that's been a part of the menu items as quick steps, where you could create quick steps and then you'd kind of manually instantiate it. Now you can take those quick steps that you've built, or you do it in lieu of actually creating a new quick steps column. And if you do that, you'll see what it looks like both to build the quick step, which is sort of like Mad Libs. You fill in the words, and kind of create what it is that you want it to do. When this happens, do this, or take some form of action. And it's a little bit more like a workflow, which we're going to talk about in a little bit, that takes it even further. These are kind of simple, quick steps. Start a chat with this list item, or I just uploaded a file and I want somebody to be notified, or change the status from X to Y, because that's the most interesting status, which is Y. One little call out here is, if you've been squinting at the menu items recently, there used to be an automate menu and an integrate menu. And so as part of the message center post, which I'm sure you all read, 1138798, tied to roadmap ID 491632, this is now actually all under the integrate menu. So you'll see there's one item that Patrick is going to talk about that didn't move under the integrate menu because of its newness and importance. But now the integrate menu carries a lot of things, including where you might create a quick step, or in this case, you can also create a quick step by using the quick step column. And the information from the PM, if you haven't yet seen this in your user interface, is targeted release. Tenants are already here and coming to GA over the next 2 to 4 weeks. So quick steps, I think, are very simple automation. It really is when you create the quick step that the automation then starts, because it kind of saves you from clicking multiple clicks or switching context to a different application. So it does save time, and there's some nice information to read. Moving on.
Oh, well, let me interrupt quickly, because Caleb made a great point in the chat, and I do want to say it out loud because I think it's important. He said value does not come from volume, Mark. It also comes from memorializing a complex, infrequently run process that people forget how to do in between executions. And that is an excellent other reason why automation might be a good thing to do. So and he was speaking to Mark with a C, not Mark with a K. All right, moving on. Rules and SharePoint lists.
I had one thought off of that, because both what Mark and Patrick had said and now what Caleb put in there from that comment, sometimes it is the IT people that kind of go, couldn't we create a form for that? And after they fill out certain fields, things go and then happen automatically, which saves them time, which means the process for the person requesting the thing hopefully is easier to request and is easier to fulfill, meaning the time to then getting ready and getting that thing that you need is shorter. So everybody loves rules in the workplace, right? If you love rules in the workplace and you follow them, which I know Derek does, because I just know Derek is a rule follower, you can build out rules for lists and library. These are also now found under the integrate menu, and they really do send the simple automation element of a notification. Something's changed and you should know about it. Again, they're following the same pattern of filling out a Mad Lib, so you'll see this now being, I think, a nice, consistent new user interface for simple automation, or for people who aren't going to go and dev or code or low code some tricky PowerFlow automate thing. But what's nice about rules is you can turn them off, you can turn them on. So if you have some high volume, certain times of the year where you need to do things, but you need to turn them off, you can certainly turn off rules so you're not getting inundated by too many notifications. You can also delete them, and they're very easy to create if you need to create. You can have multiple rules running on lists and just play with them, and you can see that they're really targeted to what you actually are designing in the list or library. If you have an owner column, that's a really nice one to have, because then it sends a notification to that person you named as an owner, not just always the same owner. So are we following rules? Is Derek going to overwrite anything I've said? So I'll hand it off so we can learn a little bit more about workflows from Patrick. And I think, again, you'll see some of the commonality in the user interface.
Yeah, I'm going to pass it on to Patrick, but just point out to you, Mark Cashman, there's a couple of questions in the chat you might have answers to. So
yeah, let's hear it.
Thanks,
all right, Patrick.
Yep.
I was just going to mention that.
Yep.
So along with rules and everything else we're talking about, there's the new workflow UX in SharePoint and Teams. I think the biggest surprise that is welcome in this is that it's a unified experience across SharePoint and teams, which means that it is the same experience in both applications. I want to repeat that. It's the same experience in both applications.
We're so unused to it. We have to like point it out. My God, it's the same.
We're wondering who, I'm not, never mind. So unified experience across SharePoint and Teams. So you can create and manage workflows directly from your files and lists. It's the same interface across apps. So regardless if you're in Teams or in SharePoint, it's the same. You've got some availability in app to discover, create, and manage. So similar to what Mark was just talking about, the new Mad Lib style, you pick and choose your process to help guide in creating lightweight workflows. These aren't heavy, complex things, but it allows you to do things like setting up a notification when an item or document is modified or changed and who to send it to. It provides some easy steps for people to do these things out of the box, which is kind of nice. You can start from a template or build from scratch with some minor custom ability. We'll talk about that in a minute. Extend further into Power Automate if you want to make it more complex. And of course, the thing that I think a lot of people will find helpful is you can actually add approval apps integration to this. So you can build a workflow for your policies and have an approval process added into that as well, which is kind of nice.
Cool. Should I move on?
Next slide. So where are these located? In your, you click on the Workflows tab on any list or library in SharePoint. This is up in your top navigation bar there, kind of next over to Integrate. It is its own callout, which is kind of nice because I think this has a lot of potential and they want to kind of elevate that a little bit. For Teams, you just go to your asterisk and click on Workflows. Next slide. So as I mentioned before, you can start from a template or build it from scratch. So at the moment, I think there's only 4 that are available to you, but they're basic. You can select a workflow and it kind of runs you through the Mad Lib process where you, once you pick the workflow, it opens a new screen and you select your parameters. These parameters are actually pretty cool because you can select everything from a library to basic metadata. So you can select a specific column if you want a trigger based off of that, or you can build your own by choosing triggers and actions manually to create the customized scenarios. And as I was just saying, you can leverage SharePoint metadata in new ways, like to email a document owner or send to another department for review or approval, which is all pretty cool if you ask me.
Yeah, no, it's definitely moving in the right direction to sort of bridge that gap between a user and a power user, which is, I guess, where we're going to go next to Derek to talk about Power Automate and then into Logic Apps.
Yep. And I think, on the workflow side, I think that really is the bridge. That is really easy for an end user to create that like individual productivity tool. Where you need to take it another, what was that, Mark?
Sorry, I just had a question. I see some chatter in the thing. Workflows are not available for every tenant yet, right? I mean, I just checked and I don't see it in one that I looked in, but it's imminent, right? Is that correct?
I think that's what Mark said earlier. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
sorry.
they're out. Maybe they're in a different spot on the. No, they're still rolling out. All right. Well, anyway.
Maybe. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah. So
carry on.
Eventually, with those models, you will hit a wall where either the out of the box, Mad Libs are in a spot where they can't take you any farther for your logic. That's really where you need to look at what is the next step? What is the next way to create that automation or that repeatable process? Now, I mean, we as a company have some definitive opinions about Power Automate and Logic Apps, but in general, they use drag and drop connectors that you can sort of position on the page in order to create any kind of custom workflow action that you're looking for. You are bound for the most part by the different connectors. However, depending on what it is that you're trying to do, there are connectors where you can just make REST calls and call the SharePoint REST APIs. So it really depends on what you're trying to accomplish, as well as what your skill level is as a user. Now, Power Platform, in my opinion, is great for individual productivity. Right? I want to send me an email. If you want to replace your alerts with a flow, sure, go ahead and do that, because you can get closer to the functionality that you used to have before with a flow. Or maybe for like individual team, related productivity, if you want to check something in and alert folks to stuff like that, or run something through a quick and easy approval process. The challenge on the Power Platform is there's not really a great SDLC process. So deploying it, moving it, it's getting in theory a little better, but it's still not something that we have, like say with a Pro Code solution. Now, Logic Apps and Power Automate are pretty much the same connectors under the hood. One lives in Power Automate and the other lives inside of Azure. The big difference around using one versus the other is really how you're going to choose to pay for it, right? So in most cases, building a complex Power Automate flow is really around you need a custom connector, you need premium connectors. So you're paying for a user license, usually a service account for that. And so, you've got your X number of dollars per user per month kind of thing. The Logic Apps, again, same connectors. The only problem is that they get charged based on Azure consumption. So if you have something that's going to fire up, run once a day, you can run that and probably be much cheaper than, say, running it under a service account using the Power Platform. So, cool. Yeah. Now, if you need, and Julie, feel free to jump in.
I'm going to let you have it.
If you want to do something,
for your next review, though.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, if we do reviews.
For enterprise level automation, we really want to be using Azure as that backbone and using Azure Functions to do this, because we have things like software development lifecycle. We have continuous employment, continuous improvement, continuous deployment options, and we can do those deployments from development to test to staging. You can use this for things like site provisioning, right? And create an Azure function for that. Or like one of the things we do a lot when we're working with say Orchestrate is we'll have a post-provisioning process that you can call and then do some extra stuff that needs to happen. We lost event receivers when we moved to the cloud, but Julie has just turned me on to Azure Event Grid, which is amazing. That does let you actually trap events that occur on lists and libraries and then do something about that. So you can sort of replicate some of that functionality. We can also do things like approvals and timer jobs. Now, the thing is that essentially you are building custom logic here, custom code. You can do that with Node. You can do that with C#. You could even do that with PowerShell if you had to, but I certainly wouldn't recommend that. So this is.
Do we have anybody out there that would recommend that? Anybody?
This is mute.
This is much more of a pro code solution, but to be honest, if you have complex business logic that's enterprise grade, chances are the flows or logic apps are going to be so complex that you need a professional to do that for you anyway. So, that's sort of where I'll leave that. Julie, do you have anything to add?
I'm going to give Todd a shout out. There are instances where things are not implemented with the REST endpoints, and you do need to use PowerShell to be able to do that thing. And if that thing is part of a bigger enterprise level integration, then absolutely lean into creating a PowerShell Azure function so that you can trigger it with like a queue-based trigger or something else to do a set of work. A good example of that is there is no way to manage group Entra ID group management without using the Exchange PowerShell module. And so this is more like contacts in a contact group. So it's more complex than just your M365 group membership type stuff. At any rate, those things need special Exchange PowerShell commandlets, and that's what it is. And so we build that with PowerShell, and we put it in an Azure function, and that's just completely fine. I just, in general, given the overhead that the extra that running PowerShell has, it's not my go-to for the first thing that I would pick up as the tool to build an Azure function with. Because, of course, if you're using consumption-based, they're limited in execution time, although even that has gotten better with the move from consumption-based Azure functions to flex consumption functions. The flex consumption ones can run up to a half an hour. All right. Oh, but are only on Linux, so you have to use the version of PowerShell that runs on any desktop. So PowerShell 7, I want to say, Todd Clint. I might be right. All right. There we go. To Todd, scripting. You have
so I lobbied hard to get a slide for scripting as an automation tool. A lot of the previous stuff has been for end users, citizen developers, and then pro code folks on the last slide. This kind of fits in the middle. This is for IT pros. Scripting has been a long, I've been scripting stuff for 20 years in Windows and SharePoint and all that. So it definitely fits in this automation thing. So I liked Caleb's comment earlier about, documenting this process, even if it doesn't run frequently. The documentation of that process is valuable to the next person that has to execute it. And that's one of the things that any kind of automation, but scripting particularly, gives you is free documentation of the process, because nobody likes to do documentation. It also gives you repeatability, which again is just the automation bucket. Just doing the same thing over and over, doing it the same way, doing it consistently, so you don't have to worry about reinventing the wheel for the process every time. When you're looking at your scripting options, these are kind of the way that I look at them. You've got your Microsoft modules. So these are the ones that come from each product group. So the SharePoint Online product group writes their module. Julie talked about the Exchange group. They write their module. The Entra folks write their module. I find those to be fairly limited. I deal mostly in the SharePoint space, and they go to a certain level. One thing about them, though, is that's where new stuff's going to come out. So anytime there's a new function inside of SharePoint, a new piece of functionality, that's going to be where the management of that is going to show up in PowerShell first, and it's going to show up in Microsoft's PowerShell module first. So if you're on the cutting edge, you're going to want to do that kind of stuff. Probably not something you're going to want to automate, but just something that you should know about. Microsoft also has the Graph SDK, which is a PowerShell module or a collection of PowerShell modules you can use to automate things directly against the graph. Lots of power there. I'm not a big fan. It's really difficult to use. It's really difficult to manage and get your head around. Connecting to it's really tough. The last time I checked, there were thousands of commandlets, so figuring out exactly which commandlet you wanted to use and how to use it is really tough. The documentation is not good enough for somebody like me. So know that it's there, and know that you can use like the Graph Explorer to figure out, how you want to do that kind of stuff. But I would not default to that. My favorite module is the P&P PowerShell module. So that's always where I start when I'm trying to automate a task, because, I break it down and then figure out which PowerShell, P&P PowerShell commandlets do that process for me. When you're writing your scripts, just understand there's a maturity model with those. With scripting, just like Mark talked about, you're going to script individual things, and you're going to figure out how to make it a module, then you're going to figure out how to make it a function and all that kind of stuff. So don't be discouraged. If you're doing things simply, you can always work up that maturity model. Make your PowerShell scripts with the thought of being the tool maker, not the tool user. Write them so well that somebody else can use them, and you can step back and write the next great script. And don't forget about AI. I use a lot of AI when I write my scripts these days, and it's a great enabler. It's a great tool. I check everything. There's a lot of human in the loop when I write my scripts, but it definitely, specifically with the documentation bit, because I will start out a lot of times writing comments about what the step is going to be, writing it in regular language and letting AI help me figure out what the commandlets are. So that's my shill for PowerShell and M365 CLI. I threw that in. I know that's Julie's scripting weapon of choice, so I threw that in.
I appreciate your shout out. I'm just dying over Mark Cashman's most recent pun in the chat. And we're moving on to resources since we're out of time. If you're not here for the chat, what are you even doing with your life? All right. We got some resources for you.
On this one, just because there was some good chatter around alerts, I think Derek made a nice mention of some of the limitations of rules that maybe aren't yet caught up with what alerts used to do. Alerts going away, there's a great article to read, but also know maybe we collectively as a community can push more what alerts could do into rules and get the team pushed a little bit.
That's a great piece of advice. Absolutely.
Let's push.
Push hard. All right. April 29th is our next episode, and we're going to specifically dive in because some things are changing and have changed since the last time we talked about Copilot and the SharePoint agent, which was the only thing we had. We're getting a lot more AI in SharePoint, and we figured it was time to go through some of those changes and what we have and what's coming and all of those things. In the meantime, next week, we will be at the Microsoft 365 Community Conference in force. That's in Orlando. You have still time to join us there. We have a discount code if you want to last minute hop on a plane or in your car and drive down to Orlando. The European Collaboration Summit is 2 weeks after that, and so we will be also in force in Cologne, Germany. We have a discount code for that one. That is running towards being sold out, so you should absolutely get on the bandwagon if you want to join us at the European Collaboration Summit. Todd's going to head over to Belgium and go to Techorama. And so that will be cool if you want to join him there. That's a fun one to go to. And then we will be in force in Chicago at TechCon 365. We have a $200 discount code for that event. And if you would like to join us, we strongly encourage you to do that. There may be competition going on around that discount code. So, use ours first. Thank you, friends.
Just register a bunch of times and use our discount code just for us.
Use Sympraxis 200. You'll be glad that you did.
Add a little cover fire. All right, that's awesome. Thanks everybody for coming today. We look forward to seeing you again on April 29th. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much for joining us this week on Ask Sympraxis. We love getting your questions or session ideas. You can submit by using the link in About. If you find this helpful, hit that like or subscribe button and share this content with your colleagues.